Okay. Let's see if this works. Nicholas, are you in here, Nicholas? Let's see. He is in here. I'm going to send him the first request. There we go. Let's try that. Sorry, technical difficulties. You're here?
I'm here.
I sent him the request at the same time. You guys both sent requests to me and I approved them. So let's see.
Okay. It says it's thinking about his.
Thinking? Oh, does it? It doesn't even show that on my end. Okay.
Yeah, I see that it's thinking. Hey, everybody.
Hi. We're just waiting for, hopefully Nicholas can get on here. It's acting up a little bit.
Hi,
Okay,
Ted.
it shows he just left.
Okay, so
Maybe
he needs
he's
to try
gonna
again. Or you can request him.
Right, which I have been doing. And I actually sent the request to him at the same time as you. So I'm waiting for him to pop back in here, but maybe he's just going to reboot his phone real fast.
Hey, Sabrina. Hey, Janet. Hey, Ted. California
Phil.
Underground.
We are, for those just joining, Nicholas Wildstar seems to be having some technical difficulties, so we're just waiting for him to come back in here to get him on. Okay. He's back.
Hey, Eric.
He's
everybody.
He's
Is
here.
It working this time?
Yeah.
Right. We see you.
All right, perfect.
All right, good.
It just kept spinning and then it would kick me out and I don't know what was going on there, but finally we're connected here. I shut down all of my other apps running in the background, so
I did the
hopefully
same thing.
we
So
should have
hopefully
a
this
pretty
works.
good connection here. You can see me and hear me okay though,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Fantastic.
And we can hear
All right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Nicholas, I'm not sure if you watched our interview with Diego Martinez, but what we're going to do is we're going to have you introduce yourself for like a couple minutes, say sell us. And then we have a list of questions that we're going to go through, as well as we have our own set of questions that we're asking everybody, but then we pull our audience and have them ask you specific questions. And we'll get to as many of those as possible. We're hoping to do about a 2-minute time limit per question, just for the sake of trying to get through everything. And so you go.
We have a 1 hour limit on the lives, right? Before they kick us off, we have 1 hour.
Yeah,
and last time
sometimes.
we went really, really, really fast, and we just barely got in under the wire in that hour before they were ready to kick us off. So that's why we have a time limit. So we'll ask you our own 12 questions first, then we'll go into audience questions, and then anything else that we have time for. But first, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll start with the questions after that.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate you.
Share this video with your followers.
Oh, yeah. And you can share it if you want to take a second to share the video right now, to hit the little arrow at the bottom. You can do that if you want to share it to your followers.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. No more interruptions.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure how I'd really do it. Just send it to their inbox. Hit send,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, that's exactly.
That's really all I have.
That's pretty much the option. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You can do that if you want to take a second. And then anybody else that wants to share, so that people can ask their questions. So the goal is to get the audience to also ask their questions. And what you can read their questions, but don't answer the questions that they're going to fly by the audience. We want you to focus on Camille's questions and then answer those. And then at the end, I will ask you some remaining questions, and Camille might have some clarifications and stuff. So just, I'm sort of writing down the questions from the audience so that you don't have to be distracted with all of those.
And I may be taking notes to circle back to. So if I'm looking down, I'm not ignoring you. Anyway.
All right. No problem. All right. Well, like I said, thank you, Camille, for inviting me to this conversation and giving me the opportunity to be heard by more people, because you know, running as an outsider, you pretty much get shut out by the mainstream media. I learned that when I was running for governor in 2018. I was the endorsed Libertarian Party candidate for governor of California. And even though the Libertarian Party is the third largest party in the entire country, a lot of people didn't hear about my campaign simply because, again, the mainstream media chose to not speak about me as an opponent compared to Gavin Newsom and, you know, John Cox and the like. So if anybody out there has seen my face before, it's probably because I've been an activist for the past 10 years, involved on a grassroots level, and have marched in protest for many different causes, whether it be police abuse or government corruption or media censorship or women's rights, genetically modified foods, all sorts of different issues that the community, of course, is concerned about. I've also been involved in community cleanup projects, as well as feeding the homeless and doing whatever I can to, of course, improve the living conditions of people in my community. So that's notably what I'm known for. I also have a very popular YouTube channel, which just passed 30,000 subscribers. I may not seem like much, but I have nearly 7 million views. And the videos on my YouTube channel is of me standing up against government corruption. So people can definitely take note of that, to say that I will stand up for the United States Constitution against any and all violators, whether it be those people that are sworn to uphold it, or, you know, again, those that don't care about it at all. But I'm also a raptivist. I'm a rap artist. I moved to California from Wisconsin back in 1999. So I've spent the majority of my adult life in California, and that was to pursue a musical career. But I didn't want to sell out to the mainstream, you know, record labels, and pretty much chose to go the independent route so I can continue to maintain creative control over the type of music that I was creating. I'm more of a conscious type of rapper, so I'm more of the likes of Common or Mos Def or some of those type of rappers, if you ever heard of them. But as an underground musician, I was able to get my music on music streaming platforms like Spotify and Pandora before they became popular, you know. So I was one of the first musicians to have my music available online. And one of my songs is even in the movie Scary Movie 4. So I've done a lot as an independent musician to get my music out there. And now I more so make it to be heard, to get the issues out there so people can know about, again, the concerns of the community. And I don't do it for money. I stopped that pursuit a long time ago. So I don't put out my music for money. I know there's different ways to make money from my music other than directly. And I just more so just promote it as a way to, again, let people know about the issues that we should be rallying against and uniting against together as a common cause.
I'm going to cut you off there just because I want to get into the questions, and we're
oh sure. No, I apologize.
We might circle back to some of that, but
politicians can talk, so
so we have like our pre-list of questions, and I don't know again if you watched the interview, but I'm going to throw them all out of order in no particular order, just to throw things up.
Dirty dozen. Let's
Okay.
go, Camille, with the dirty dozen.
Yes. Do you believe in our Constitution in its entirety? Even more specifically, our free speech and gun rights, 1A and 2A.
Yes, indeed.
And how do you plan to protect these rights?
Well, yes, I trust in our Constitution and believe in it wholeheartedly, which is why I, again, as a human rights activist and civil rights activist, have been out there protecting and fighting for our constitutional rights. Even when my own freedom was threatened with being taken away from me. So as governor, I do plan on making California a constitutional carry state by nullifying any and all unconstitutional gun gun laws and ammo laws in the state. So a lot of people protest against that because they say, you know, how can you make liberal left California be pro-gun? But believe it or not, the majority of people that I speak to support, again, every person's right to protect themselves. And that's more so how they look at it, as a self-defense issue, especially people of color and, you know, women. Who, of course, want to be able to protect themselves if they're out there in a situation and aren't disarmed or unarmed. Also, when it comes to our First Amendment rights, I recently was just on trial for recording in court, believe it or not, and was sentenced to community service, and even again was threatened with having my freedom taken away from me simply because I chose to exercise my right to freedom of press and my right to hold our government officials accountable, as of course in the court of law under the Fourth Amendment, which says we have a right to a fair and public trial. And if a courtroom is a public place, then we should be able to record the activity there, no different than City Hall or a library or any other public place. And we've seen that happen with the Chauvin trial, where it was publicly broadcasted on YouTube. And what's funny is my trial was actually broadcasted on YouTube while they were prosecuting me for, again, recording myself in court and putting that video on YouTube. So I am a strong defendant of the United States Constitution and will make sure every city or state official under my authority upholds it as well.
Just to clarify, you were recording your own trial?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
My own trial. So.
What is your stance on the BLM organization, and do you believe we need to defund or restructure our police system?
Sure. I'll tell you a quick story about my experience with BLM. I actually have had my own experiences with police abuse starting way back as early as 2013. So around 2016, and I had always been an advocate of the cause. Even when I first ran for governor in 2014, I was promoting criminal justice reform. So around 2016, around when the Michael Brown shooting had happened and Black Lives Matter started to form and unite and become this nationwide known organization, I had went to one of their committee members' meetings just to learn more about it. And my issue with it was that I felt like the name was a bit discriminatory. I lived in Fullerton at that time, and during that time, Kelly Thomas was killed by the police.
I remember.
And the majority of the police, what's that?
I remember that story. I'm local.
Okay.
So.
Yes, Kelly Thomas was a white man that was beat by the Fullerton Police Department and killed. And the majority of people out there at the protest that I went and saw were white people. Furman Valenzuela was another man that was killed, Hispanic man that was killed by Anaheim Police Department. And white people again showed up at those protests. So when it came to the issue of criminal justice reform and the call to action for that, white people, believe it or not, show up in numbers. Way before BLM ever came around. So I went to these meetings, again, one of these meetings in Orange County, and I met with a few of the organizers, and the majority of the people in the audience were white, and they did like this PowerPoint presentation, and afterwards they asked if we had a few questions, and I stood up and asked, do you think that the name Black Lives Matter could be discriminatory to a lot of people that would like to be allies in the cause, you know, that aren't here in this room right now? And immediately I was called a imposter or police informant and a provocateur, paid provocateur, and all of this other stuff. And it just turned into this situation where it was an exchange between me and the organizers. And I had to let them know, hey, I've been out here fighting for this cause. And I feel like, I hate to, use a lack of better terms, you guys are going to F it up, for all of us out here that are really doing it. And again, would like to unify around that cause. So I have always been supportive of defunding the police in some way, especially since in Black communities, if you feel like you want to, again, make sure that your police departments are being held accountable, which are not a government agency. A lot of people have that confused. The sheriff's department is a government agency. That's why the sheriff is an elected official, while the police chief is not. They're hired by the city, so they're city employees, and there should not be any monopolization over our police agencies. But yet that's what we have right now. So if in a predominantly Black community, if they have an issue with their police department, then yes, they should be able to, again, take away their money, which is what we should be doing. If any union agency, whether it be the buses or the grocers, which in California I've experienced. They went on strike, and when they did, everybody was screwed. You couldn't catch a bus, you couldn't get your bags or groceries bagged or whatever the case may be. And if police decided to go on strike, we'd be screwed with regards to protective services, since that's really all they're hired to do. So as governor, I do plan on again, making sure that we're not spending money on militarizing our police, making sure that there is more accountability by getting rid of the Police Bill of Rights, which is an extra layer of protection, as well as qualified immunity, which is another extra layer of protection for police. And I will be requiring that they all carry mandatory insurance. That way, if there is a police shooting or whatever the case may be, whether it leads to the person's death or not, that lawsuit settlement payment will come out of their own pockets instead of taxpayers.
Okay. Going from that, do you believe that systematic racism exists, and is critical race theory the answer?
No, I don't believe critical race theory is the answer to addressing criminal justice reform or systematic racism in our government. I don't believe that government should be.
Do you believe that the systematic racism exists? And then if so, is critical race theory the answer?
Yes, I was answering that. So no, I don't think critical race theory is the answer. Yes, I do believe that there is systematic racism in our country, especially in our police departments, which originated from slave patrols, if you do your homework. And with regards to their job, they're policy enforcers. So they're not, again, sworn officials to uphold the United States Constitution. They have a police code of conduct where they are to recognize our constitutional rights. But how many times do we see that being violated by police officers, whether it be you driving down the street with no seatbelt on, but if you ride a bus, there aren't any seatbelts at all. So what's the difference? And the difference is you have private property, and your private rights, your natural rights as a human being are being codified by our law system, where you're being charged to exercise your God-given rights. You have the natural right as a human being to move from point A to B. And before cars came along, you always retained that right. And even when they first came along, licenses and, you having any type of restrictions on using your own personal property did not exist.
We're way beyond the 2 minutes. And I let you go way beyond the 2 minutes on the last question too, just because it seemed like you had a lot to say on that subject. So I'm trying to keep it a little bit to time in these next questions.
Sorry, I'm not
a lot more to get through. I know. I'm actually going to be tighter on time
as we're getting close. Like maybe kind of like do like a watch.
Maybe I'll
maybe we could do a part 1, part 2. I don't know. I'm always here.
You have to. Well, they're going to kick us off at 60 minutes. So
gotcha.
That's why.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's get to the next one, and I'll make sure that we're on, keeping on time.
What are your plans to address the homeless crisis in our state?
I plan on building homes, 3D printed homes. This technology exists right now. It's actually being used for commercial use in Rancho Mirage, but I'd like to use that to build homes for the unhoused people in our state. These homes can be built in less than 24 hours. Some models cost less than $5,000 each, and they're self-sustainable. They have their own power and water. So once we build these 3D printed homes, we, of course, will be able to provide those to those that need temporary housing, as well as earthships. You can look this up. These are actually homes that are built out of recyclable materials like tires and cans and bottles. So it's a way to clean up our environment and our landfills and build self-sustainable homes again for those in need that are state of the art. Therefore, if they are in neighborhoods where people feel like they don't want somebody that's recovering from some form of abuse or some situation where they simply were just not able to financially, be stable and ended up on the streets or even in their cars or in a hotel. Right now, Gavin Newsom is pledging to spend almost $15 billion towards that effort, and $1 billion of that last year went towards a portion of that went towards putting homeless people in hotels. So I think that money could be better spent, and that's exactly what I'll be doing as governor.
Do you believe in global warming / climate change? This is a two-part question, but I'll let you answer the first part.
We'll ask them both because we only have 2 minutes for the whole
All
thing.
right. Do you believe in global warming / climate change, and how do you feel about the apparent push to put for electric vehicles?
No, I do not believe in the climate hoax. I've done a lot of studies on it, and it's simply just to make more money. And it's crazy that a lot of the studies that even Al Gore initiated have come to proven to be false with regards to their claims. So I believe, of course, we have a responsibility to make sure that we're holding these businesses and corporations accountable when it comes to polluting our environment. And we as a community need to take responsibility ourselves by making sure that, there's not litter everywhere. So I will be spearheading that effort through my Gold New Deal, where I would like to beautify the state of California and make sure that we're transitioning to greener technologies. It's unfortunate that Gavin Newsom chose to do so by executive order by pushing these electric vehicles in 2035 when we don't have a reliable energy grid system to power those vehicles. So I think electric vehicles are the future, solar powered, whatever the case may be. But I do not think there should be any legislation that prevents any type of purchase of any type of vehicle that any person may want to buy, that any manufacturer or producer may want to supply and demand. And if the demand is there, of course, the product will be phased out. And we've seen that happen with music, where you got CDs now instead of cassettes.
What are your thoughts on school choice for California children, and should children be taught about LGBTQ and transgender in public schools?
I don't believe the government should be involved in school choice. That's something that I plan on localizing as governor, and making sure you as a taxpayer, your money that's being collected to fund those schools actually stay in your communities instead of being redistributed by state officials. That's what's happening right now, and a lot of people are upset because of that. But when it comes to school choice, of course, you as a parent should be able to choose what your children are being taught. I, as a parent, want to be able to retain that right always, and I don't ever want that to be violated by any state official nor any school official that may feel like that's their duty to impose state law. So no, I will not be doing such a thing. And if anything, as governor, we'll be getting government out of that and transitioning to localized
What about homeschool and charter schools?
That I support wholeheartedly. It's sad that that was not done by the state before this lockdown. Before, it seemed like it was something that was shunned upon for you to want to choose to homeschool your child, or, you know, go through the process of having the opportunity to sending them to charter school. In California, we spend so much on sending our kids to public schools. We could actually send 3 kids to charter school for what we spend on sending 1 kid to public school. So how about those numbers? And that's what I'll be doing, is finding out exactly how much we're spending by conducting a public audit once I'm governor. And this will be transparent to the public, online in real time for everyone to see.
Do you believe vaccines should be mandated by the government for school children or adults? If not, do you have plans to repeal any of the current vaccine mandates in California?
Yes, I actually have a plan I called, or I'm calling my first 100 days in one pledges, meaning on day 1, I will make all of these changes, legislative changes, to make California a freer and more liberated state. One of those changes will be nullifying SB 276 and 277, which mandates the vaccination of our children and adults for you to be employed. I don't think those laws should exist ever whatsoever, because they violate your individual rights to choose what you want to do with your own body. And of course, when it comes to our children, I don't think they should be experimented on whatsoever. I think it's awful right now that it's even happening with this mRNA injection that they're calling a COVID-19 vaccine, which it has proven not to be. It hasn't cured coronavirus, and unfortunately those people that have taken it have even suffered from side effects. So I, as governor, will not be lobbying for big pharma or any of their products. I will be making sure that the people of California know about all of the choices available to them if a pandemic were to happen. And again, we'll make sure that there will be no such legislation that mandates the forceful vaccination of anyone, nor any vaccine passport.
Thank you. Do you feel that big tech should be able to censor on its platforms? If so, why? If not, why not? And what would you like to do about censorship in this arena?
Well, I was actually just speaking with this and was given a recommendation that I'm heavily considering, which is creating a public-owned utility for our internet. The reason why we don't have any power over if any of these, corporations want to pull the plug on our freedom of speech being expressed online is because they own everything. You know, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, they own AWS, and when they chose to censor Parler by flipping the switch, all of the people that were on there, the users, they were cut off. We should not let them have that type of leverage right now. Unfortunately, there is legislation that gives them that power, that authority, and that monopolization over, again, what is something that has become a public utility. Being online is looked at as being a public space, and we want to make sure that we secure a portion of that public space for we the people. And that's what I'll be doing as governor under my Gold New Deal, in creating a public-owned utility, which will have our own water and power. We'll be, again, including our own servers.
Thank you. A lot of your ideas, I'm assuming, have to do with taxes. So let's talk about your plans to tackle our high taxes in California, like the gas tax, taxes on business, income tax, sales tax, etc. Tell us your plans for taxes, please.
Suspend them all immediately once I'm governor. I feel like the people of California could use some type of financial reprieve, especially since they've been taxed heavily during this pandemic and want to be able to continue to afford living in the state, keeping a roof over their heads, keeping food on their tables, and being able to provide for their families. So instead of taking the money out of your pockets and putting it in governments, I want to keep it there. So let's suspend the income tax, sales tax, property tax, corporate tax, payroll tax, luxury tax, all of these taxes to, again, allow the people of California to keep their own money in their pockets. And I'll be shifting to a non-taxpayer revenue generating government body, where we will be focusing on maybe leasing naming rights to some of our state-owned property, like some of our bridges. If Amazon or, Verizon or one of these corporations wanted to slap their name on the Golden Gate Bridge for a year and pay us $100 million to do so, now they're responsible for maintaining that bridge. And we, the people, are, again, benefiting from the leasing of our property and not having to spend taxpayers' money to, keep the roads up. So that's exactly my plan as governor.
Thank you. Do you want open or closed borders, and what do you plan to do about the current border crisis in California?
I actually do support, again, an opportunity for our immigrant population to be able to become citizens quicker. It right now is extremely lengthy, it's extremely expensive. And I believe California, the people of California, benefit from our immigrant population. I feel like I'm more of a Cali Republican since the people of California do, again, see the benefit of having, an immigrant population here. And the majority of our geographic makeup, again, favors that decision. So I do, again, feel like immigrants should be able to have a easier way to obtain citizenship if they choose to do so, since it is not mandatory. But I also feel like there should not be any social services available to people, no matter who they may be, immigrant or citizen, for an indefinite amount of time. So I'll be adding sunset clauses to social services and welfare services. That way people know that you'll only be receiving them for a short amount of time, and then after that you'll have to provide for yourself.
So to clarify, are you okay with illegal immigration and then them getting some services for a short amount of time, or you want the borders closed and only legal immigration allowed?
Well, to me, again, to call it the process illegal when the person is exercising their right to travel, which to me is a natural right, a human right, which should never be.
Travel across borders is a natural right?
Absolutely. We travel into Mexico. My wife and I, we drive straight into Mexico. And if you've ever traveled to Mexico, that's what happens in the California border.
But I mean, you just go temporarily and come back. So
still, I know people that have gone there that have stayed months, that have set up businesses and left, come back to California, and now they have a business in Mexico, or they've even brought property for people there, or whatever the case may be. So when it comes to improving
open borders, and to clarify, open borders is
what I plan on doing is improving our relationship with the government of Mexico. That way we can improve our trade relationships. I plan on decriminalizing all substances in the state of California. That way we can eliminate the black market drug activity, which seems to create the majority of violence around drugs. When we talk about the war on drugs, it's been unsuccessful. It's harmed more so innocent people, and that's proven. That's been proven historically, versus, again, decriminalization, which just happened in the state of Utah. And I'm pretty sure they're starting to see some benefit of that, because people aren't being thrown in jail for exercising their right to choose for themselves. So whether I choose to smoke marijuana or use mushrooms or whatever the case may be, my body, my choice. So if we take away that incentive for the drug cartels, then that's off the table. And I believe, again, the government of Mexico would be happy to improve our trade relationships and make it to where people of California can travel to Mexico freely and vice versa.
That's actually a good intro to the next question.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you pro-life or pro-choice? And if you are pro-life, are there any circumstances in which you feel abortion is acceptable?
I'm pro-life. I do feel like that we should be protecting and respecting life in all forms. Um, and whether it be a newborn child or a grown person's life. So I also do not support capital punishment. I don't think taxpayers should be footing the bill for killing people, regardless of the fact, whether it be a grown person or a child. Therefore, as governor, I will no longer be making or allow public funds to be given and donated to subsidize businesses like Planned Parenthood and other institutions where they perform abortions. If they want to exist, they'll do so solely on, donors, independent donors or whatever the case may be, private donors, but they won't be receiving public funds whatsoever.
And was there any circumstances in which you feel abortion is acceptable?
Well, I don't feel like that's my choice. I don't want to be able to make that choice as an individual. As a man, I don't feel like that's my right to be asserting what I feel like is my choice on you. I've dated women before where they chose to use abortion as a way of, as a means of birth control. And though I was heartbroken by such a discovery and do not support it at all, that's that person's choice. And I can't create a law that prevents that person from making that choice. We've seen that happen in this country time and time again, and we shouldn't be repeating that mistake that happened with desegregation. Pardon me?
So then you're pro-choice.
You got both of you talking at once. Say that again.
Sorry. So then you're pro-choice because you said it's not your decision to make that choice for the woman.
Correct.
So you're a pro-choice.
I'm pro-choice for a human being to make the choice over their own body. I'm pro-life because I believe that we, again, as human beings, should be protecting life. So as a government official, when I get elected governor, I'm going to make sure we, as taxpayers, we the people, are not subsidizing Planned Parenthood to pay for somebody's abortion. If they want to get an abortion, they're going to have to pay for it out of their own pocket. Now, if that be the case, I don't care what they do. I got a problem with it now because I'm paying for it. So that's why I'm going to stop it. But as an individual,
with abortion or capital punishment, as long as you're paying for it, not paying for it.
Exactly. I do. If the person wants to pay for it out of their own pocket, and let's say, for instance, on the flip side with capital punishment, let's say the person is guilty and discovered to have committed a heinous crime, and the family of that victim wants to see that person dead. Well, the family of that person can pay an executioner, and this now creates a new industry for something that the people can benefit from. I mean, now it's a new industry that will create jobs, and if the person wants to see that person be killed, they can pay for it.
Okay. So next question. Sorry.
How do you
we went beyond.
We're good on time though. How do you feel about qualified immunity being taken away from our police officers? I know you touched on that, but it is one of our questions, so I want to give you that time.
I don't think it should exist at all. I believe that everybody should be held responsible for their mistakes, and that's mainly why it exists. I don't think that any officer that does their job correctly and does so, again, according to the rule of law and upholding their constitutional oath, then they wouldn't have any problem with the removal of that. Many of our officers have never drawn their service weapon. They don't even have any complaints against them. And it's unfortunate that the majority of the bad police officers that have been highlighted by the mainstream media have taken away that nobility away from their position in the community. So I would like to restore that integrity by, again, making sure that they are held to the same standards as everyone else. So if a doctor happens to do a surgery on someone and, it leads to that person's death, it's a matter of malpractice. We need those same standards with our police agencies. So removing that qualified immunity, removing the police Bill of Rights, and requiring that they again carry liability insurance as individuals will make the people of California feel safer when it comes to police departments serving a duty in the community, because they again are government agencies. They're not sworn to uphold the Constitution. Your sheriff is. So the sheriff, when the police department does something wrong, it's the sheriff's job to hold them accountable. Right now, we don't see that happening because of this happening. Posse comitatus, it was suspended, and it was supposed to separate these police powers. If we have one police body, then we have a standing army in our country. And that's exactly what our nation's founders warned us against. And right now, we have that right now with police departments carrying their own flag.
I made it through the 12 questions, but I have a few that I have added along the way.
Okay.
As far as your platform and what you believe in, how will you, if you are governor, how will you be held accountable to that?
The same way Gavin Newsom is. But I won't be changing up the rules last minute. Yeah, I mean, I won't be changing up the rules last minute. Gavin Newsom actually signed a law in 2019 that requires that any candidate running in the gubernatorial race provides 5 years tax returns. This doesn't apply in a special election, which is happening, but between him and Shirley Weber, they're already colluding to commit voter suppression as well as candidate suppression by imposing that rule upon us candidates. But I'm going to protest and object against that by continuing my campaign. But I definitely feel like we need to improve our electoral system altogether here in the state of California. Pardon me. What was the original question? I think I got off track.
Just being held accountable to, like, if you're elected, how will you be held accountable to your...
Yes. Okay. So I would like to improve our electoral system by implementing ranked choice voting. What this will do is this will alleviate the problem that we have right now, which is our two-party system. We have a top two rule in California where the top two candidates, regardless of party, is able to go head to head. And we've seen that happen with Kamala Harris, where she went up against another Democrat for position as senator. We've seen that happen just recently with Nancy Pelosi, and the opponent that she was going up against was another Democrat. So if we want to stop one party rule in the state, we need to reform our electoral system. And with ranked choice voting, we'll be able to vote for all of the candidates and rank them based on how we like them. But
and why would you win?
Do
tell us what makes you the winning candidate.
1 minute.
Dedicated.
Because I got a couple questions too.
I'm going to hand it over to you in a second, Carmen.
Because I'm dedicated to we the people. I mean, you have a lot of candidates out there that are running vanity campaigns. They're running gimmick campaigns. They're running commercial campaigns. They're running campaigns to basically further their branding or their namesake or become a celebrity even. And that's not why I do this. That's not why I've been committed to doing this for the past 10 years. And I haven't gotten rich because of it. I have fought against the criminal justice system and won, and was awarded because of that civil rights violation. But I think that's a benefit of me fighting the good fight. So I think if anybody wants to vet me as a candidate, look no further than my life to be that resume.
Okay.
Carmen, you go ahead.
Thank you. I have a couple quick ones because we don't have that much time left.
Okay.
Who did you vote for in 2020?
I voted for Libertarian Jo Jorgensen. She was the only candidate on the ballot in all 50 states, and she was the only candidate that was pledging to end the Federal Reserve. While Donald Trump talked about it as a candidate, which was something that raised my eyebrow, as well as getting America back on the gold standard, because I feel like we need to increase our buying power, and that's only going to happen through monetary policy change, which is what I will be doing as governor of California. I'll be creating a state dollar, a California dollar, to challenge against the Federal Reserve note. That's the dollar that you have in your pocket right now, and it's nothing but paper. And they hit print, and it's, you know, it comes out of thin air. But it's not backed by gold or silver. And I voted for Jo Jorgensen because I felt like, as a conservative, she would make sure that we as a people would be able to strengthen our money.
Okay, and yes or no, was the election fraudulent?
I believe every election is fraudulent, other than those that are direct democracy.
Yes or no, do you believe
people are in control.
Do you believe Donald Trump was the winner of 2020 election?
That, to me, I don't really care about. I know that, again, in every election, there's always some voter fraud. When Donald Trump won in 2016, they were saying Russia played a part in it, and people objected to it. When Al Gore lost and George Bush won, people objected against that, saying there was voter fraud. So there's always a protest against our electoral system, which is why, again, I feel like we need to be improving it. But that's only going to happen on the state level, on the local level, which is why, as governor, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be making sure that we are able to have forensic audits being conducted right now, like that in Arizona by the public, in the state of California.
Okay, what is your definition of systematic racism?
A system that exists that's based on racism, which is a prejudice against someone based on the color of their skin. Right now, it's without a doubt
10 minutes
that we have a law. Pardon?
Sorry, 10 minutes. 8:50. So
no
we're about
problem.
to before we get cut off.
We started this live at like 8:03.
Oh, okay.
So we might have 13 minutes. Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's become apparent at this point that our criminal justice system, our law system, is definitely built on the foundation of racism. We know that our real estate system is also built on racism with redlining. We know that our banking system is also based on that. And they all benefited from the enslavement of Black people in this country, which is why I believe that restitutions is the best way to make sure that the pain and suffering of those descendants of those that were enslaved are able to be compensated, other than reparations, which is a plan being considered right now by our legislators and Gavin Newsom, that would lead to the inflation of our currency, and we the people having to pay people that maybe were not descendants of slaves in this country, getting payments, monthly payments, and that would come out of all of our pockets. Even if you weren't directly responsible for the enslavement of that person, you will have to pay for it, and that is not what I want. I think those people that did play a role should pay for it, and as governor, I'll be making sure they are held responsible for their actions.
Okay, so explain what you mean by restitutions exactly.
Restitutions, like, for instance, Brooks Brothers, the luxury clothing company, they sell expensive suits, etc. They were one of the founding companies that made their money off of slaves. Some of these banks actually had insurance policies on slaves because they were looked at as property, remember? So you can insure your property, and some of these insurance policy holders still own that to this day. With the Tulsa massacre, which today is actually the anniversary of, which happened in Oklahoma, a lot of those businesses on Black Wall Street that were destroyed had their banknotes taken from them by some of the major banks that still exist to this day, like Citibank, Wells Fargo, etc. So those are the businesses that are responsible and still directly benefiting from the enslavement of Black people in this country.
May I get really controversial with you for a couple minutes and like go
What
completely?
isn't controversial?
Well, it's more personal controversy with you. Why did you change your name?
In 20 or what was it? 2000. I don't even remember. 2002, I believe, or yeah,
1 minute or
like
less.
that.
Running out of time. We got more
Well,
questions.
Wildstar is my born name. I just simply chose to change change Wildstar to my last name since it was my middle name, because I wanted to be my own man. I felt like I wanted to start my own family tree. And after having a conversation with my father about it, he said, "Well, hey, that's why I gave you the name." So he blessed me in making that choice as a 21-year-old man, making that evolution as a human being into my own personhood. So that's why I chose to change my name and be who I am. But Nicholas Wildstar is always who I am and was, like I said, born and raised.
What is your experience with balancing a budget?
Well, a lot of my work, the majority of my work in the private sector was in a supervisorial role, where I managed the company's budgets, as well as supervised over a certain amount of staff, whether it had been 10 people or 35 people. I was the man put in charge. I also, of course, worked in accounts payable to help balance the budget. And in my own personal life, I make sure that I am able to balance the books to make sure I'm not living outside of my means. So I don't have extravagant tastes. You won't see pictures on my timeline about fancy shoes and clothes and cars and jewelry like you see some other major candidates. But that's not who I am as a person. Money isn't my motivating factor, and it's not something that I have a desire to obtain, which is why as governor, I actually plan on reducing the salary to $60,000 a year and imposing that salary on all state employees, nor will I be accepting a pension. So those are the changes that I plan on making and showing as a true conservative what we can do to save some money around here in California.
Carmen, back to you.
Thanks. So I think unless you have anything else, I'll ask the last two questions, Camille. And then I think we'll be done because we're not going to have time.
People wanted to know if you could just go really fast. I believe that there was controversy with you calling a Marine an asshole on a public comment.
Well, like I told one of the ladies that inboxed me about this, the guy seemed like he was just busting my chops. You know what I'm saying? And I'm the type of guy that if you give it, apparently to me, you can take it. So since he was throwing out remarks, I decided to throw some back, you know, and maybe I chose some words that I felt like, I guess, should not have offended him, especially calling him a snowflake, when I guess that's supposed to be something that offends people on the left. So if you're running off of emotion, instead of trying to get down to some civil conversation, then that just obliterates any type of common sense conversation whatsoever. So unfortunately, those type of people do exist. I still engage them on campaign trail. To me, I feel like every person deserves to be spoken to. And even though he started out his conversation dismissing me and, you know, insulting me, I still chose to answer his question. So instead of the focus being on that, it was on this, you know.
And is there any truth to pro-Palestine comments? Real quick, and then Carmen.
Yeah, well, there's not going to be any time for my questions. That's okay.
Well, the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party both pledge allegiance to Israel. And we fund Israel by hundreds of millions of dollars in financial aid, international foreign aid each year. Why are we doing that? Why isn't that money being kept here in America or better yet, California, since we're a donor state, we give more to the federal government than we borrow. So why do we want to continue to fund the war machine? If they want to handle their own problems, let them do so on their own dime. We, the people, should not be funding any war activity, whether it be between Israel or Palestine or Iran or Iraq or Russia or North Korea or in South Korea or whoever the case may be. If China decided to attack Philippines or Taiwan, we'd be dragged into a race into a war because of that. We need to stop that again by making sure that we're making sure the people of California are fortified and protected first, which is why I'll be making sure all of our soldiers are here to protect our borders instead of being abroad.
Okay, in 1 minute, what is your faith and does it play a role in your politics?
Well, I'm definitely a man of God and a faithful believer of the spirit of oneness. I was raised Baptist and went through a period of time where I was agnostic, but I had come to terms where I had found God again in my life. But it was the God of unity, the God of oneness, the God of all religions, the God of no religions. And so I see myself more so now, my belief being in alignment of Christian Science. If you ever look that up, it was one of the books that helped shaped what I feel like is the belief that I have now in our spiritual existence here on this planet.
Okay. And then do you feel that you have the temperament to be the leader of the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world? We were privy to see some of the back and forth comments between you and the veteran. And you know, he was challenging you on some questions and you came and said, well, you look like an a-hole, you know? So, but do you have the temperament to be hammered with these type of things? Because the heat only gets hotter, right? So you can get hammered with a couple questions online, but the heat will only get hotter the further you go down this road. So do you have the temperament for this position?
I've challenged constitutionality of our exercising our rights against judges in the court of law. And I have those videos that exist as well. So if you want to compare that situation to that one, which one is small potatoes, you know? So you're absolutely right. The heat will definitely pick up. And if I can conduct myself in that circle, then I can conduct myself in any circle, even if it's in communicating with the common man, which I am. And if I wasn't running for governor, he to me would just be one of those pretentious type of guys that feel like they know it all. He strikes me as that type of fellow. If he ever wanted to contact me, have a drink and talk about more about it, I'm open to it. Contact me anytime. But when it comes to me being in that executive circle and doing the job, that's more so what it boils down to. Then my job is to make sure that I'm holding government official accountables. And trust me, you want some hard ass like me in that position.
2 minutes remaining on the live. Just got the notification.
Okay, so the last question, if you can answer in 1 minute, is it seems like our veterans have been kind of hung out to dry. What do you plan to do about that, if anything?
I completely agree. My father is a veteran and he actually lived in California. When I was a teenager, he invited me out here to live and I've been out here ever since, even though he lives back in Wisconsin where I used to live. Actually, no, now he lives in the Philippines. He left altogether the United States because of the authoritarianism as well as the high taxes. And unfortunately, our veterans fall victim to that. A high portion of our unhoused people in the state out there being homeless are veterans, and they aren't receiving the service through the services that they need through our Veterans Affairs Department. So that definitely needs to be reformed. But I believe that they need to have access to all of the benefits that were made available to them. To me, that's really honoring and respecting them, and also ending these, wars, these senseless wars abroad that do nothing but put their lives in danger and put the people of California further in danger as well.
30 seconds.
I'm only stopping you because we have to stop the video before they stop us. Otherwise, we won't get to see it. Okay?
Yeah, we want to save
thank
it.
You so much.
Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you so much for making yourself available to us.
Anyone else who has questions for Nicholas Wildstar, you can post underneath this video after we save it to our page. Go back, tag him, and post underneath the video any other questions that you might have. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.